I have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring gas. Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
All right, Kyle Theige in the house. People laughed. People laughed earlier this week with hottest Wolves takes when I told them there's a path to 50 wins. Yeah, did you see what happened? That vaunted Hornets team, they found out. They found out last night.
I thought you were just doing that because I have a $500 ticket on them to go over 50.5 wins. So it's not technically dead yet.
50.5 might be a little high. I'd feel better if it was 49.5.
I do
on your behalf.
But I think despite it being a very hot take and you asking the Wolves to do something that we kind of know now they're incapable, they're just too many times they blow games to bad teams, at least historically in the past, even earlier this season. But as I've said to Dane, as I was talking to Craig Kilborn earlier this week on his pod, with 18 games left now, you wake up this morning, 18 games, it is kind of there for them. And it's not even an optimistic thing. It's just they don't have many opponents on the schedule remaining that are good or that are trying. And, tanking teams will still play players that you maybe never heard of, but they're trying to, put good film on or good tape. But you kind of saw it last night. I thought that was, despite it being a really bad Hornets opponent, that was a really good win. They kind of just bullied them for most of the game. It got a little tense in the fourth, whatever. But if they play like that against these teams coming up, Spurs, no Wemby, even the Heat, who are kind of struggling, they have a chance to make some noise, and kind of erase some of those demons from the past, right? That Washington game, that Bucks game. If they were to go out and do what you said and go, 13-5 the rest of the way, they're going to lock themselves into the 6th seed at least, and I think that would eliminate some of the frustrations from earlier in the season, I think. So
yeah, dude, actually, God, there's so many. Okay, put a pin in all of that.
Yeah, I know.
We'll get back. You the Washington game, I just got triggered by. We'll do a random Wolf of the week here. I do want to shout out Bricksworth before we go any further on the pod here. Bricksworth, if you haven't been before a game, after a game, or for a road game even, just belling up next to fellow Wolves fans, a great spot in the North Loop in Minneapolis to watch a Wolves game. You can also drink the signature Nas Reed Hazy IPA while you sink your teeth into Detroit-style pizza, some of the most creative, best dry rub wings. This is one of my favorite places in the North Loop, downtown Minneapolis area. To even for baseball games, it's right by Target Field too, so it's right there in the mix. And it has become. I was talking to Cooper, who owns it, and he was saying, this has become especially this season, an absolute hang before Wolves games. So check them out. There's some home games coming up. Bricksworth in the North Loop. So it's funny, the way you judge basketball teams. We brought this up a couple days ago. Maybe it was yesterday. If you could just, I don't even need all the losses back. They've lost enough games. If you would just give me the, one of the two Portland games from way early in the year, give me the Milwaukee game where they got beat by a Giannis-less and Lillard-less team, that Wizards game, and then the Utah loss where Ant got suspended for having a bajillion technical fouls. If you just take those 4 games back, and you can't, it's part of their DNA. They're sitting here now. They'd be 39-25, right there in the mix for maybe the 2 seed in the Western Conference. So I guess my take to you is, I know what their record is. I do think they're going to go on a run here. But when I watch this team play, and Julius Randle looks more assimilated now than ever this season, the depth they now have in Jalen Clark and Terrence Shannon Jr. and Dillingham when they want, I look at this team as a really dangerous matchup for anyone they would face in the Western Conference. And I know that they're still going to lose a dumb game to the Pelicans in 2 weeks, but that doesn't change my opinion. I think this team can make a run, very much.
Yeah, and I think I've kind of been saying this since the All-Star break, and I believe it, but I also want to at least acknowledge the glass half empty view. I think outside of OKC, who I watched again last night on national TV against Memphis, they still have a gear that I don't think anyone else does. Even though the Wolves, have matched up pretty well, I think the Thunder are in a tier of their own in the West. But then tier 2, I don't think there are any teams in the Western Conference who have as high of a ceiling as the Timberwolves. The Lakers, really high. They're figuring out this Luka thing on the fly, and they look really, really good. They have one of the best defenses in the league all of a sudden. But also, the Wolves do have a pretty low floor. They'll just give you more of those Wizards games, the Bucks without Giannis and Dame. So, in my opinion, it's, like if you were trying to eat well for 6 months, in those first 3 or 4 months, you always just randomly found yourself at Dairy Queen. Like, if they just eat healthy the next 6 weeks, like, they can really clean up their diet and they can kind of put away some of those bad moments they've had. But it does, like, every game now matters. And I thought, again, the Hornets are really bad. I actually want to throw something at you about the Hornets, but they took a second night of a back-to-back. They got into their hotels at like 5 a.m. because of the snowstorm and stuff. They took that game really seriously and kind of never let their foot off the gas. I know
they were exhausted by you could tell they were all just huffing at the end of that game.
And that fourth quarter little thing, like they got down to 8 or whatever. You're never concerned, but they took that game pretty seriously. Now you go to Miami. You know what's down in Miami. A lot of fun distractions, but take that game seriously. Go back, play San Antonio. Like, it's there for them. And it goes back to why I think Chris Finch is the most important person right now in this organization. I thought he pulled a lot of the right levers last night in the Philly game. I think he's been giving some guys extra run. The Julius Randle thing is another topic. Like,
yes,
you watch Julius Randle, albeit a couple games, and I'm texting people like, man, I don't know how he's not on the team next year. And that opens up a whole can of worms on so many other things. So it's
okay. Hold on, let me ask you this. Okay, this is crazy. Oh, I can't believe I'm going to ask this question.
No, I know.
Right now, and I don't know how you'd have to. I'll just ask it. If you had to pick right now, this entire team stays fully intact the way it is, maybe like minus Conley or something, but like Julius comes back, or you could swap out Julius straight up for Kevin Durant, 37 years old, and you'd have to probably you probably have to kick in like I don't know, like the Detroit pick or something.
I thought you were going to go a different way with this, but this just tells you how good again, very apparent that the vibes could just die with them losing to like a Wemby-less Spurs team. But right now the vibes are pretty good. It's lighter outside. We're all enjoying it. But I thought you were going to talk about Gobert because Dane and I had a little conversation of
let's do that one too.
We've always been thinking now, like, okay, you can't lose Naz Reid, and I agree, and he needs to stay, and how much is he going to make? I saw you guys did a video about maybe like annual average value, $23 million, whatever. I don't think $30 million. That's pretty steep, but we'll see.
What, for Naz, you're saying?
Yeah, for Naz.
He's definitely played his way above Jaden's number, I think.
For sure.
The 25 number.
But I always just thought, like, okay, Naz and Rudy next year, Naz and Rudy. Then you watch Naz and Julius play. And you're like, man, like, is that the starting 4-5 next year? And I know everyone will be like, no one wants Rudy Gobert. I'm always intrigued by that because so many people apparently have connections to front offices. But I think the extension, despite some of the back stuff, I think it makes him easier to move. He did take a pay cut. Obviously, he got more years on that contract. But I never believed that anyone's immovable. So if Julius, I mean, we're going to get Gobert back, I would imagine, in this next 3 to 7 days or whatever. But if Julius and Naz look like this, and then you add in what Jaden's doing, and he's like their best rim protector all of a sudden, but they can play really good defense without a true 7'3" center or whatever, it opens things up. Now, to your point about Julius and, maybe Rob and a pick or Julius and a pick for Kevin Durant, I don't know. The Durant thing is so weird to me because, like, I just watched, he was on national TV the other night, and they were down 20-something to the Clippers. They ended up winning that game. But he was fighting with his head coach on national TV, and Stan Van Gundy was going crazy about it. But
hold on, it's relevant today also because Brian Windhorst was on ESPN this morning. Okay. I think I can get up, and he flat out said, guys like Windhorst don't fully speculate. It's always it's windy fingers. It's always anything they say is rooted in information they are gathering or things they are told, and then sometimes they report it straight up. A source told me. Other times they'll float theories. But they are trading in information they are gathering behind the scenes. And he told the national TV audience this morning, watch out for Kevin Durant to the Timberwolves, which means he's being told that information probably by people either in Kevin Durant's camp or maybe even in like the Timberwolves camp.
And we've kind of done this before, but if you're going to trade for Kevin Durant this summer, you are telling yourself and your fans and the league, we can win the finals next season. And I don't know, depending on what the price is for Durant, and you start thinking of like starting lineups and like what is an 8.5 man rotation with Durant in the mix. Maybe, I mean, I'm a pretty big optimist on this team, and I still don't think a Durant trade puts them in like the Celtics tier, but you never know. Again, it depends on what you're giving out. If it's just Julius and maybe a pick, and you can keep Nas and you can keep Nikhil and Rudy and Jaden and stuff. But I mean, I saw you kind of mixing it up a little bit today too online. The idea that you're going to put Jaden McDaniels in a Kevin Durant trade now is lunacy. And I'm his biggest fan, Jaden's, but this Jaden thing isn't like just a week of good basketball. He's basically been their second best player since the calendar flipped to 2025. And they've unlocked some things with him where I'm not going to victory lap it because it was really bad to start the season. But I did say on these airwaves that before you trade him for Cam Johnson, who's 6 years older or 5 years older, and you just cut bait, make sure you open every possibility to making sure that you're not going to get Andrew Wiggins down the road with like, hey, Andrew, just go rebound. And he's like, oh my God, now I'm really valuable for my team. This Jaden stuff of getting him off the ball a little more, conserving his energy. He hasn't fouled out, I don't think, in 3.5 months. He's last night against the Hornets, he's just attacking the offensive glass. He's kind of a mismatch problem for these teams that are like, hey, we're going to throw our center on you and kind of hide our center. And then Jaden's like, okay, cool, Yusuf Nurkic, I'll cook you. That's just not a thing anymore. Jaden McDaniels, I don't think anyone would trade Jaden for KD, straight up. And people are listening to this that don't watch the team much. And they're like, oh my God, that's lunacy. It's like Kevin Durant's 38 years old. Jaden McDaniels is one of Ant's best friends and a dynamic weapon for this team. So, but I do think they're going to mix it up this summer and try to go after Kevin Durant because that's what Tim Conley does. He kind of just takes these big shots and has his coaching staff figure it out. So the price to get him is all that matters to me. It's not so much, is he a good fit? He'll fit in, man. He's Kevin Durant. But I'm not giving up more than, 55, 60 cents on the dollar.
Well, he can, and Durant can actually suppress the trade value by doing what a lot of superstars have done in the past. Like when the Gobert trade comes out of nowhere, you got to give up more picks because Gobert's not the one demanding out of Utah. And so it's like, all right, if you want him, you got to give us more picks. But if the player gets out in front of it and makes a big stink or says, I want to be traded, not to mention he only has 1 year left on his deal, so it's not like you're trading for 3 years of a prime Kevin Durant. It's not going to be like 4 first-round picks for this iteration of Durant with how hard it would be to move that $50-some million salary. So, but that also kind of ties back in. Let's go back to the Julius part of this. We are fully aligned on the Jaden thing. Durant would be super fun. Fans would get a kick out of going to the Target Center and watching Durant and Anthony Edwards play together. There's some debates over, like, from a basketball perspective, would your team be better or worse? And it all depends on what you'd have to give up. So for me, if you're not giving up Jaden McDaniels and you're not giving up Naz Reid, which you wouldn't because he's going to hit free agency, and I guess it'd have to be like a sign-in trade if you were to move Naz Reid in a deal with Kevin Durant. But if you can keep those guys, and if you're only moving the Julius Randle either player option or some sort of sign-in trade longer-term deal and the Pistons pick, and maybe you have to kick in Dillingham, I think I'm in, but you cannot compromise the core three that's really going to push forward with Anthony Edwards into his prime. But I don't think his value in a trade is going to be much beyond. Again, I don't think a team is going to give up a boatload for a 37-year-old who doesn't really. I mean, he's not the same guy he was 7 years ago. He can still score, but he's not a team that's carrying you to like the Western Conference Finals anymore. Or the Suns wouldn't be the 11 seed right now.
And he would unlock just some late game stuff. Like I don't think no matter if Kevin Durant was 52 that he's going to be on a team that is bottom 3 in clutch time. I just think he has spots and he'll get to those spots and he'll open up a lot for Ant. I do think let's go back to talking about this team, but when you think about this summer and this offseason and what could happen, I think it's like a big fork in the road moment for Anthony Edwards. Because we've talked about this dating back to last summer and the Olympic run and all that stuff, but you're 100% spot on. And if you don't agree with Phil's take that the Durant market could be condensed, like you got to look at what De'Aaron Fox happened with the Kings. He kind of put floaters out there like, hey, I'm not down to just go anywhere. And he ended up in Sacramento or in San Antonio, and San Antonio didn't have to give up a single like rotation core young player. They just gave up like a pick or two, and that was it. if Durant's market is all 29 other teams, the Houston Rockets and the Thunder, depending on what they do in the playoffs, like if one of them stumble, they can just go buy Durant. And maybe he'll be like, yeah, you know what? Those are good teams. I'd like to play for them again or whatever. But if Durant gets, if Ant gets in Durant's ear and is like, yo, come here, look at what we're doing, look at what we're building, we have cool ownership, they let us do cool stuff, like, come here. And Durant says, I'm only going there. It's like the De'Aaron Fox thing again, and it's going to suppress the market. So I think that's all super fascinating. And when Windhorst just goes out of his way on a Thursday morning for no real reason to talk about it, I think there's real steam to that. But I do kind of want to segue back to this 24-25 team because, again, I don't know what happened with Julius Randle in just 2 games since he returned, but these are the 2 best games that he's played in a Timberwolves uniform, and he even said it last night that sitting out, he learned watching this team about ball movement and pace, and he's playing like a guy who's been on this team now for 4 or 5 years.
And it's not just the last 2 games. Like, I agree. His individual presence looks different. It looks like he is early in the year. He and I'm not going to pretend to like know much about him and his life and personal, but like as a basketball player, the first 20 games, he looked like a guy with trust issues.
For sure.
It's like there's all these dudes that are talented around you. Why are you dribbling the air out of the ball and bullying your way into 3 defenders? Like, dude, trust your guy over. Trust that Jade McDaniels can, take a pass and dribble into the lane, do something with it. But it's almost like now you see this joyfulness in Julius Randle's game when it comes to not only playing the bully ball that he's known for, but using the threat of that to unlock teammates. And he's like, he has joined the party in a team way that didn't exist in the first 20 games. So that is noticeable in the 3 games since the injury. But even before, like, he perfectly clicked with like the way that, and some the opponent probably matters too these last couple games, but if you look at the games he's played in, like take the games that because they were 5-8 without him from the beginning of February until I guess he was out the entire month of February, and they were like 5-8, I want to say, without him. On the season, they are 30-21 with Julius Randle, which is like a 48 win pace. But that also includes the first 2 months of the season where he's coming off, it was like a shoulder injury, and it's a new city, new teammates. You're trying to figure this thing out just like they were 2 years ago when Gobert came in. But this was even like more last minute notice because, hey, it's training camp. Here's this franchise altering trade. So in fairness, let's shave the first like almost 2 months off of the resume and say, hey, you guys get 2 months to clean this thing up. Basically, since that Sacramento loss, that come to Jesus discussion against Sacramento, which was kind of where was that? That was like the end of, it was Thanksgiving-ish. So it was right around the end of November. So you got 2 months to figure out your bleep with this new player. The Wolves are 22-11 when Julius Randle plays. That's a 55 win pace. They won 56 last year with Cat? I mean, what do you make of that?
Are we still, I don't know what time it is in the Central Time Zone, are we still on Reckless Speculation Thursday?
We're always on Reckless Speculation Thursday, yeah.
Reckless Speculation.
I think Julius Randle got severed. If you know, you know. Because he looks like a completely different human being. Like, he looks like one of the happiest players out there. And again, you go back and listen to his post-game stuff. He talks about he got injured in the Utah game, right? That hamstring or thing. And then he basically said he had a day to kind of pout and be crabby. And then he just kind of started watching how the team played without him. And he was like, oh, like, I kind of referenced this to Dane about a quarterback that sits and watches how the other quarterback plays. He learned a lot about this system and what Finch, I mean, him and Finch, whether you like it or not, seem to have this awesome relationship where Finch is like, hey, it's going to come, like it's going to happen when it happens. And again, they've beat up on some bad teams since Julius got back, so I'm not trying to say that they're, the 72-win Bulls, but those numbers you just put out there, it makes it harder for me, and it probably explains why we all get reactionary as fans, right? I mean, I know people at times wanted to dump Jaden or lose other players on the team, and I get that, but this is why the front office job isn't about being reactionary, because just dumping Julius Randle at the trade deadline so you don't have to worry about his player option. I mean, in hindsight now, that kind of looks dumb. And if there's a potential for him to be the salary in what needs to be a big salary slot to go get a Durant this summer, if you just don't have that salary on the team, like now you're kind of cooked too. So I think he's been awesome, and I think he's probably one of the reasons. I mean, Ant's been really good. Jaden's obviously had 2.5 now good months. Nas is out of his slump, and then you see what Dante's doing. I think Dante leads the league. I think Jace Frederick had this in 3-point percentage since like the middle of December.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Everything's clicking, but Julius Randle to me is still the piece that unlocks so many things because he can play small ball 5. He can be kind of a Kyle Anderson at times, like running the offense. But he also just gets you last night against the Hornets. He just punishes teams that play small. And I think that's a core part of this team's identity is they do want to impose their will on the opponent. And last night, without any real big guys other than like Mark Williams for the Hornets, how many times did Julius Randle just get an offensive rebound, muscle his way in for an and one? He's playing the best basketball of his Timberwolves tenure, albeit, 4 or 5 months. But if he continues to buy into this and play like this, the Rudy Gobert insertion into all of this again is going to be pretty fascinating because I don't know how that's all going to work. But if it works well, I mean, again, this team can string together a bunch of wins against a bunch of, opponents that are more focused on lottery balls and trying to win games.
Well, yeah, there's a math equation here, and I've been pounding the table, I feel like, for 2 weeks now on Flagrant Howls, that when you're 32 years old and you're 7 feet tall and you've had some back stuff, some knee stuff, you really should not be playing 33, 35 minutes a night anymore. When KG went to the Celtics, younger than Rudy is right now, they scaled his minutes way down. Okay, you're going to go from playing 38, you're going to play like 30, 32 minutes a night, maybe even less than that. So with Naz Reid deserving as many minutes as possible, I think even some of these lineups recently out of necessity where Jaden is asked to play more as a big man and maybe play the 5 in some of these lineups, there's so many reasons, health-wise, depth of lineup combinations to go, listen, Rudy, it's going to be about 26 minutes a night, maybe 28. Certain nights we might lean on you for 34 if a matchup dictates it. But, there was a report that Chris Finch addressed the team a few nights ago when DDV and Julius Randle were coming back. Essentially, hey, a lot of you guys everyone's been playing here, these young guys, and I wasn't in the room, so I am just sort of summarizing based on the reports. But essentially, it was Chris Finch saying, don't be offended if you aren't getting a ton of playing time. And I think most people read that or hear that and think, yeah, Terrence Shannon Jr. and Rob Dillingham, don't be offended. I almost wonder if it was also meant for a Rudy Gobert. Yeah. That, hey, like, we're not going to bench you, and yeah, you'll still start, but don't be offended if you play 22 minutes because we need Naz Reid, Jaden McDaniels, and Julius Randle to be doing the things that they've been doing recently.
And 100% agree with all that stuff. I think that message was far more for the veterans about, hey, you might have your minutes cut a little bit rather than the young guys. The young guys are pretty aware right now that it's kind of stay ready, but there's games where they're just not going to play. And that's frustrating, I know, but when you see how good Dante is and Ant and Nikhil and Jaden, like, there's just a lot of minutes right now that are being chewed up by players, in my opinion, that are just better, even though the young guys have shown they're ready to run. The Gobert thing, though, I'm with you. He kind of maybe will become more of like a specific relief pitcher that you bring in certain situations. But if you go back and look at the Wolves' schedule the last couple of weeks, even before the All-Star break, whether it be wins or losses, they've played a lot of teams that play small, but then they have that Rockets game where they don't really have an answer for Şengün. They have the Nuggets coming up multiple times on their schedule in the regular season. And also, if things were to go well for Minnesota, right, maybe you find yourself in the top 6, you avoid the play-in, but then you're rewarded with playing the Nuggets again. That's a situation where you need Gobert. Because I don't think you're getting, as good as Julius has been, I don't think you're getting great defensive output from Julius on Jokic, or obviously Naz Reid. You can't put Jaden on him. You want him to roam. So they're going to need to find spots to plug Gobert in, but I also think he's going to have to, like he did by taking essentially a pay cut, even though he got more years on his contract, hey, you're still a big part of what we do this season, but you're not always going to close. Or you might not always play a fourth quarter because we're going to go smaller and the Julius-Nas combo works, or the Nas and Jaden combo at 4-5 works. So I'm with you. I think that's really good insight into what that meeting probably was about, that maybe it was a stick to sports moment for Chris Finch. Like, hey, we're not doing politics anymore. We're just playing the guys that are going to give us the best chance to win. And I think Phoenix, Philly, and now the Hornets, 3 teams that flat out suck, they did that, and they played the right guys. And I hope that continues Friday night in Miami.
One more thing on this, and then let's get to let's go back and revisit the 2020 draft off of the game against Charlotte too, because there's some fun stuff there. But on the Gobert, or if it's a Gobert or Julius thing, let's just say, which I don't think it's that binary or simple, but one thing I will defend Gobert on. I know he's not the same player he was a year ago, which is a little unsettling considering that the extension for much less money, by the way, kicks in next year. But when he is on the court, he does have, or the Wolves, I should say, have the best defensive net rating of any other player on the Wolves team. He is still very impactful as a defensive player, even if he's not in contention for DPOY. In fact, when he's on the court, the Wolves have, I think it's a top 3 defensive net rating in the league. So what you'd have to prove to me is, can they still find some level of, maybe it's not flirting with best defense in the league anymore, but are you unlocking enough offense without him and maintaining enough defense going forward? Because I'm not willing to just kick Rudy Gobert to the curb for no value. Like, I'd need to see what those trade offers look like, because he does still offer so much hidden value defensively. So I just want to stump for Gobert at the end of this conversation and say, let's not do what we did with Julius Randle, folks, 3 months ago, and just consider him easy to cast aside.
They're playing pretty good basketball right now, again, against bad teams. But that's been an issue for them, an Achilles heel. It is going to be fascinating to see how Chris Finch, who is playing 8.5 now. I mean, last night you saw Jalen Clark and Terrence both get in, Rob get in a couple minutes in his home state. But it's going to be fascinating to see how he runs a 3-man front court of Nas, Julius, and Rudy, when the elephant in the room is that Jaden might just be better playing in the front court as a 4 or 5. So fascinating. And then this summer, next season, I'd be blown away, shocked if next October when they start training camp, if Nas, Julius, and Rudy are all on the team together, because that's just kind of seems impossible, but it's all fascinating. But in terms of like Rudy Gobert still having value and stuff, I don't know, man. Just watch the Hornets, because every time I watch the Hornets, one of my best friends is a Hornets fan. It's crazy to think when you go back to the 2020 draft, the Wolves draft number 1 for the first time in a long time, and then the Hornets draft 3. Obviously, Wiseman goes 2 to the Warriors, but these 2 teams that are both kind of in major rebuilds add these 2 really talented young guards. And since that exact moment in fall 2020, Phil, those organizations have gone in completely different directions, to where this morning, not only is Windhorst talking about KD to Minnesota, a lot of executives are talking about, is LaMelo Ball long for the Hornets? Like, are they going to trade him this summer? And it kind of just makes me think of Tim Conley. I mean, obviously Gerson Rosas is in this as well, but the Gobert trade, whatever they're doing, the Wolves did it right, whether or not it led to the expected result that you wanted. Like a Western Conference Finals run isn't something you get a trophy for. But every year that Ant's been here, they have forced him to be in winning situations. And that's come at the cost of some draft assets, maybe one of their favorite players in franchise history in Carl. But every morning they wake up, they're like, we have to make sure Ant can't take a day off, that he has to play at a high level, play in meaningful games. That's not what they're doing with LaMelo, and it's a good reminder that maybe you don't love that trade, but your favorite team is trying. Sounds like I'm apologizing for them, but I hate what the Hornets have done, because they're in like year 5 of the LaMelo thing, and he's making a max rookie extension, and you look around and they're missing Brandon Miller and stuff, but are they have any chance to make noise in the East for the next 3 to 4 years? It's not always about how many draft picks you have. It's sometimes about how good can we be right now to try to force the progression and the development of our young franchise players.
Yeah, you've kind of tapped into a weird subculture of sports fans. I don't know if it's just like a last 5 years or last 10 years thing, but it's the all or nothing, tank or go for it all with no gray area in between. This happens in the NFL all the time too, where it's like, well, if you're not in a position to like win a Super Bowl, then you should just be as garbage as possible to make sure you get the number 1 overall pick. Well, how many teams go from, there's teams in baseball, I think, that like the Twins went from worst to first a couple times and won the World Series. But in basketball especially, where it is usually a climb up the steps of the playoffs, or, the classic example is Michael Jordan throughout the 80s and those Bulls teams, they had to fire a coach. Then they had to get beat a couple times. Then they had to go find Pippen. Then they had to get beat a couple more times. And then it took like 7 or 8 years. How many teams go from being garbage and tanking and competing for draft picks and a number 1 pick to just like, boom, the light switch flips on overnight? People were mad when the Timberwolves traded for Jimmy Butler back in 2018, which obviously in retrospect, that thing got nuked. And, the practice heard around the world in the Rachel Nichols interview. But the argument at the time was, are the Wolves being short-sighted and foolish and cutting off a 10-year dynasty run by not allowing Cat, Wiggins, and Levine to incubate longer? Are they falling victim to instant gratification and trying to cheat the system and expedite the process to get Jimmy Butler? Well, Jimmy Butler ended like a 13-year playoff drought almost single-handedly. Like he just came in and was a driving force of offense, defense, and team basketball, and then he lit it all on fire a year later. But if you go back now and like, let's say we play out the other scenario, and it was Levine, Wiggins, and Cat, that team's not winning a championship. Like, Levine puts in nice box scores. Levine and Cat are great box score guys who don't they're not driving forces necessarily for winning at that level. So, this all ties into the Gobert trade and everything you're just saying. People got mad because the Wolves either gave up too many future assets or tried to expedite a process by bringing in Gobert. Yes, they got to the Western Conference Finals because they brought in one of the best defensive big men in recent NBA history and gave Anthony Edwards however many postseason games to sharpen the iron. And through that process, are you sitting here now looking at this Timberwolves team thinking, gosh darn it, I wish they had 4 additional first round. They're going to, by the way, they can start trading first round picks again here soon because, the clock keeps ticking. But you've got Jalen Clark, you've got Terrence Shannon Jr., Rob Dillingham, you've got these young assets. So you should be focused on trying to win games as soon as possible when you have a player like Anthony Edwards. Charlotte, I'm sure they've been trying. I don't know, but it hasn't worked, and LaMelo's going to wind up somewhere else, and they'll try again.
And eventually, when it's all said and done for Anthony Edwards, if the Minnesota Timberwolves haven't made an NBA Finals, that's bare minimum, right? If they haven't made one NBA Finals in the Ant era, then we're going to have real conversations, and we can go back and be like, was that the right move, or what went wrong? But it can't just be all or nothing. I love Purple Daily and Win One Before I Die, but I don't even think that's what you guys are saying per se. It's not
every year at this. No, it's build something. Yeah,
build something. And there's no bigger reminder for me than watching what the Hornets do, because they just, I don't think, have put serious pieces. I mean, LaMelo Ball was in year 4 just driving a go-kart on top of a parking ramp when he probably could have been working out. I just don't think they have a winning culture, and they're starting to do it now. They have a good front office. I think they have a really good head coach who came, I think, from the Celtics tree, but it might be too late because now you're in year 5 of LaMelo and he's making a lot of money, and you're wondering, is he the guy we want to build around? So I don't know if every decision that the Timberwolves have made has been super smart. I still think in the Gobert trade, it would be awesome for someone to write a book on that and tell me who they were negotiating against, that they had to throw in these extra picks and extra swaps. They could have maybe overplayed their hand a little bit, but to acquire a player like that has led immediately to winning. I mean, they made the Western Conference Finals last year, and Rudy gets cooked by Luka, but he also won Defensive Player of the Year. They don't make it that far without him. So it's just a good reminder sometimes of when you finally stumble into these all NBA type players, you do need to speed up your process, and you can't just accumulate. I think the Spurs, they obviously went and got De'Aaron Fox. Wemby's dealing with some really serious health stuff, but the clock will start to tick on them as well of hey, Victor Wembanyama is one of the best 10, 15 players in the league. He makes $9 million. We need to start doing stuff now. And you saw a glimpse of that, but if his health is okay and he's able to recover 100% from those blood clots, which are obviously really scary, I bet you they're really aggressive this summer. And that aggression might be, if Naz Reid hits free agency, going back trying to get Naz Reid to pair with Wemby. So just a good reminder that, yeah, I'm with you. It's not all or nothing. Try to build something, and if it falls apart, try to rebuild really fast, and don't just have like a 5-year plan where we're going to suck, because I don't know who the best player is on the Utah Jazz. It might be Markkanen. He's on a fat contract now. It might be Walker Kessler. But I think the Utah Jazz are like 5 years away from being good. And they have a lot of picks, but tell that to people who get season ticket prices increased every year. Like, tell that to people who go to 41 games in a cold Salt Lake or a cold Minneapolis. Like, it sucks going to watch rebuilding teams. And I guess if it makes you sleep better at night to have all those picks, but not for me.
And it's not this simple, but what would be more valuable to the Timberwolves and to Anthony Edwards? Having the last 2 years of playoff experience, including a run to the Western Conference Finals, or maybe being a play-in team, or a team that does nothing meaningful at all, but has some extra draft picks and capital to play with for a future move. And the argument there would be, well, yeah, but maybe they could have had some ammo to get a Kevin Durant instead of a Rudy Gobert or whatever. But but that I don't think that was happening in the last 2 years, because Durant's been with the Suns. So and
the team that traded all the picks for Durant lost the trade. Like, how do you tell me right now the Phoenix Suns won the Durant trade? They didn't. How do you tell me the team that traded 5 picks for Mikal Bridges won that trade?
Well, dude, I remember one of our first ever episodes of Flagrant Howls like 3 summers ago, right after the Gobert trade. And I remember asking specifically on the show, who is a more valuable commodity in 2023 NBA? 35-year-old Kevin Durant or 29-year-old Rudy Gobert? And we had it out. I don't know if I can't remember if we agreed or disagreed. I said, the fact that it's even a discussion, because I think a lot of like casual fans would just say, oh, Durant. But the impact that Gobert has in the margins and has on, and thankfully, like, the NBA has amazing in-depth statistical trackers now that can tell you, like, yeah, dude, he diverts more shots at the rim over the past 2 or 3 years than you would ever imagine, but you don't see it. Because you can't quantify something that doesn't happen when you're watching a basketball game. I can quantify with my eyes when Kevin Durant sinks a 3-pointer with 10 seconds left. If a point guard comes off a pick and roll and then bails on the action, that's like, you don't even notice it. But that's happening time and time and time again is a big reason why the Wolves almost went to the NBA Finals last year. So, I mean,
and just a caveat, maybe just to play devil's advocate, 35-year-old Durant, I think he was, well, that's actually, he's only 36 now, but let's say 4 years ago, I mean, he was like top 10 in MVP ranking. He obviously was an all-star. I think he was all NBA second team. 4 years ago, Kevin Durant probably would have changed my opinion, even though, as you just said, the Rudy Gobert stuff has led to winning. I'm just concerned about it now because, again, every day we do these pods, it's all still about 23-year-old Anthony Edwards. It's everything they do is about him. Getting Dillingham is about him. Keeping Nas is about Ant. Who the coach might be is because of Ant. And when Ant is at his Jason Tatum prime, and Jason Tatum wins a title when he kind of enters that prime, Kevin Durant probably won't be in the league. And that's kind of, for me, like the final thing that tips the scale of when Ant is 26, if Durant's not on the team, then you really needed to maximize that 1 or 2 years you have. So again, if they trade for Durant this summer, you are telling everyone, including yourself, we think we are as good as the Celtics and Thunder. And maybe they are, and maybe they should be. But I just think it's a line that I would be very dangerous to cross, and I wouldn't do it if it comes at the expense of what is, a core 3 or 4 guys on this roster.
Yeah. Well, that was a lot of different paths to wander down there over the last half hour here. Some big picture, some micro stuff. Let's get to a random Wolf of the Week here in just a moment. Presented in part by our friends at Park Dental. I just had my second appointment ever at Park Dental last week. No cavities. That's right.
Yeah, let's go.
LFG. So, yeah, for over 50 years, Park Dental has been caring for and cleaning teeth in Minnesota and western Wisconsin. And there's a good chance wherever you work or live in the metro area that there's a Park Dental within roaming range. So check them out. Yeah, I was without a dentist because my old dentist retired. So I had some anxiety. Like, who's gonna be cleaning my teeth? Well, it's Park Dental now for the foreseeable future. Schedule your checkup at parkdental.com. Also, a shout out to North American Banking Company, helping to power Flagrant Howls this season. That's a Minnesota-based banking company with 6 locations across the Twin Cities: Maple Grove, Roseville, Shoreview, Hastings, Woodbury, and 50th in France. And whether you're looking for just a better checking and savings experience or something bigger like you're financing, buying a home, or starting a new business, North American Banking Company can give you peace of mind about where you bank. Personal relationships, cutting-edge online tools, those are the things they specialize in. Go to nabankco.com/Mackey to learn more. That's nabankco.com/Mackey. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. All right, producer Ross is here to navigate us through another random wolf of the week.
Oh,
Ross, you're
muted.
you're muted there.
My guy.
Professional broadcaster.
I'm so sorry. I did at least get the memo today, boys.
All black.
We're the men in black today.
We all should have wore our. You got the Chevy truck logo. We all should have wore our favorite automotive vehicle logo today. We didn't get that memo.
I don't know if I have a favorite. I'll be honest about that.
I have a
You're
least favorite.
agnostic.
Keep it moving.
Unless they want to advertise on Flagrant Howls, in which case Kyle here.
Come on over. Hey, also too, but in case this gets lost in the sauce, and we do random wolf, we end it. You can keep it vague if you want, but our friend, our guy, a mentor of mine, Phil Mackey, tweeted out something pretty important today. So if you want to go check Phil's timeline, I think there's a really cool link there to donate because, long story short, you know how much cancer has affected my life and Phil's life. You know I do it for a career. That's why sometimes I dip my toes into something that shouldn't be political, but I guess it is now, cancer research. But cancer sucks, and there are a lot of good people, including Phil and his wife, trying to raise some money to help fund ways to get rid of cancer. So if you're interested, go look at Phil's X account, Twitter account, and if you can, donate to the link because I think that's a really, really cool cause. So shout out to you, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you.
Well said, Kyle.
Appreciate you. Yeah, let's do a little random wolf of the week here, where Kyle has an all-time lead of 27-18, but I lead 6-5 in the second season of Random Wolf. So Kyle's looking to tie things up. The last handful of Random Wolves are John Thomas, Gary Trent, Anthony Peeler, and Nikola Skidishvili. The first ever Random Wolves we did were Antoine Walker, J.J. Barea, Jalen Noel, and Sebastian Telfair. So Ross is going to guide us through a series of clues. We do get the heat check guess, but after that, if one of us hits a third strike, the other one wins automatically. Are you guys ready?
Let's get it.
Every time we do this, boys, I kind of review, I scan the list. Man, there have been some goldies on this list. I think we're all well aware of that, but what hilarious names.
Kata Bates, Diop, Mike James, Will Avery finally made
Our
the
friend
list.
Britt Robson tweeted out the other night, Jesse Edwards, keep that name in mind for like 2046 trivia. So when we're doing this 20 years from now, Jesse Edwards is definitely going to be on Random Wolf of the Week.
Jesse
Costa
Edwards, man.
Kufis. Costa Kufis, still one of my favorites. Great name. Hilarious Timberwolf.
Great hairline. Yeah.
Heat check, boys. You're well aware. Once I read the first clue, you both get a heat check. It does not count against you. You get 3 guesses. If you guess 3 times, you get it wrong. Then the other person wins. So use your guesses wisely.
I have a heat check that I want to guess. We'll see if your first clue deviates me from my blind heat check.
Well, that Kyle, did you just get a piece of paper so you can write down notes?
Yeah, that's right.
You are serious about your random wolf of the week. Here we go. Clue number 1. You ready?
Let's do it.
This random wolf of the week averaged 12.9 points per game in his NBA career.
It's a healthy amount of points.
Yes. Okay. So clue number 1, he's good. That's a good number.
It's a healthy amount of points. I can take the first heat check here. 12.9 points per game. Wait, can I control F search to see if I'm going to guess someone we've done? Yeah,
Absolutely, you can. And I love that I think that question gets asked every week.
I don't want people to think I'm not Googling it. Okay, Joe
Declan,
Smith.
can you look this up?
It is not Joe Smith. Wink, wink, ink, ink. It is not Joe Smith. Kyle, you got a guess?
Martell Webster.
It is not Martell Webster. I love that you love Martell Webster.
I think about that. Yeah, I think about Martell Webster a lot.
I'm
One of,
almost
like the sneaky favorite Wolves just randomly for no reason.
Do people in Portland just reminisce out there about Martell Webster and what could have been?
Most of the wings out here had a cup of tea with the Timberwolves. Like that's why I always think Allen Crabbe. Or like remember this is so back
Brandon
in the
Roy,
day,
more of a point guard.
Brandon
than a
Roy,
wing.
yeah, back in the day, like when free agency was fun and we like tracked planes and you had like official visits. I remember how bad I wanted the Wolves to sign Nick Batum. I was like, oh my god, that would be the highlight of my fandom. And then he signed it in Portland. But a lot of wings have come through Portland on their way to Minneapolis.
Yeah.
You and David Kahn really wanted Nick Batum. Also, I will say this: when you scan this list, it is not Nick Batum.
Okay,
So
cool, good clue. Number 2, not Nick Batum.
Man, when David Kahn offered him, it was a restricted free agency thing like 12 years ago. I was very excited about that.
David Kahn has to be the happiest man of the last 30 days just in society because no one really thinks about him anymore because Nico Harrison has to become the worst GM in NBA history with what he did with Luka.
Yeah, it's wild.
The Luka Doncic trade, I think, has erased passing on Steph Curry twice as the dumbest move in NBA history.
I'm also afraid to circle back to Martell Webster. I'm living in fear of the day the algorithm falls on him because it's probably a 40% chance that you'll go with Martell Webster.
That is correct.
Here we go. Number 2, this random Wolf of the Week never played professionally outside of the NBA.
Domestic.
He is a domestic basketball player. Yep.
Even more evidence that he's a good player. You know, no disrespect to those who had to go outside the United States.
So never played outside the U.S., averaged 12.9 points per game. It's also fair to say, gentlemen, this random Wolf of the Week was a wreck in college.
Oh, and you took a sip. You love that clue.
Wreck in college.
I just love the look on your face, Kyle. What does that mean? This random Wolf of the Week did appear in a Final Four. This random Wolf of the Week was an All-NBA rookie first-team player.
Okay. Is it J.R. Rider?
No.
I have massive like squirrel energy right now, but at some point, Ross, we should just do a whole podcast on Final Fours now and how they've grown too big, too much dip on the chip, and we got to stop having them in football arenas. It just makes for a bad viewing experience. Like put them back in basketball arenas. We don't need 90,000 people sitting up on the ceiling. That's like my biggest March Madness complaint. I love the tournament, but we're putting these basketball stadiums or stick to basketball stadiums. Stop putting it at Jerry Jones Arena.
When the Final Four was here, I think Phil may have been with me, but I walked up with our social media guy at the time and went to the highest seat at US Bank Stadium.
Yeah.
No way would I pay to sit there.
What if it was a WrestleMania?
Yes, I would pay to sit there.
An even smaller patch of athletic real estate.
This random Wolf of the Week at one point held the record for most made three-pointers in a game. This random Wolf of the Week scored over 8,000 career points.
I'm control F-ing again here because we're to the point now where it's like I can't remember if we've done some of these guys. Terry Porter.
Totally fine. Are you guessing Terry Porter?
Yeah, I'm aggressive today.
You are aggressive, and you are 0 for 2.
Oh, I thought that was it.
I hope the clap was for me for selling.
No, it was the wrong button.
That you may have got it right.
All right, so if I guess one more incorrectly, Kyle wins automatically, and Kyle has all 3 of his guesses in his pocket.
Yeah.
So live odds favoring Kyle here.
This random Wolf of the Week spent just 21 games with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Oh, man. Oh. Dennis Scott.
Phil, congrats.
Let's go. Let's go.
Oh,
Yes.
what?
Well done.
3D.
Dennis
Well
Scott.
done, Phil.
He set that record with the Magic in like 93, 95. He set that record with the Magic. I remember him setting that record. Let's look him up.
Good job, Phil.
Dennis Scott. Let's go. And long time, I think still current NBA TV analyst. He's been on NBA TV for like 20 years.
I'd like to audit. I'd like to request an audit. Number 4, clue. I think this is number 4. Number 2, I put Nick Batum with a circle and a line through it. But when you said he was a wrecker, where
did he go to college?
He went to school at Georgia Tech.
It's fair to say that this random Wolf of the Week was a wreck in college. The Ramblin' Wreck.
Oh, okay.
Wait, Georgia Tech? Is that what they are?
I think they're No, hold on. Now I think you're lying to me. Isn't Georgia
Tech is the
Blue Jackets? Or the Yellow Jackets?
The Yellow Jackets. Oh, that was a misleading clue potentially.
Okay.
Oh, no.
I was thinking Shipwreck.
Uh-oh. Controversy.
I'm going to give Phil the
Dude,
win.
he was the 4th overall pick in the 1990 draft.
No.
Ross.
Hang on.
We got.
Ross
I just called.
Are
Ross
you
out.
playing this game under protest now, Kyle? Because it was. In fairness, I also absorbed that clue. I just checked that one off. I'm like,
Okay, that's fair.
I don't know what that
focused too much on
means.
it.
I'm not sure.
He was the
What do we got
4th overall pick. Oh,
The Ramblin' Wreck? Is that their okay?
Okay, I'm not.
You've never heard Georgia Tech called the Ramblin' Wreck before?
I have not.
It can't be the only one.
Oh, Ramblin' Wreck from Georgia Tech. Yep, it might be their theme song. Hand up. I will suspend myself for 1 week. I will not be back on the show until next Thursday. Ross, you win. Okay. I apologize. F cancer, and I will talk to you guys next week.
I was so proud of the clue. I took a sip of Coke. Don't take that away from me, Kyle.
I'm so sorry, buddy.
Hey, if you enjoyed this episode of Flagrant House, click that like button and the subscribe button on the Score North YouTube channel. And if you could, on the audio side, give Flagrant House a 5-star rating and or a positive review on Apple or Spotify. All right, Kyle. He's a Chevy man. He is Kyle. I am Phil. And this is a Timberwolves lifestyle podcast. See you guys.